Hello, and welcome to the Mixed Media Podcast, where we talk about all things movies, music, and video games. As you can see, Ben is not here today, so it'll just be the two of us. A bit of a short one. We'll have two segments. I'll be doing a gaming topic segment on Linux gaming and how I don't see it as the future, being a prominent thing in the future. And Aaron will be doing his arguing with Reddit segment for movies. Before we start, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a game developer and 3D modeler.
And I am Irving Nestor. I am a filmmaker and a media entrepreneur, and I own a company called Ariella. And you can check my website at ariella.co.
Nice. Before we get into things, I want to thank our sponsors, if you will. Special thanks to Rob Sharma and 99 Crime for supporting us on Locals. You too can support us on Locals if you want some nice perks. You can find all links to all the important stuff in any sort of description box on any sort of platform you're on, or on the screen right now. Actually, if you're watching on a platform that supports video on the right side, you can see a link. Go to that, find our Locals page, find all our socials, Discord, all that good stuff, everywhere you can find us. All right, and with that out of the way, how was your week?
It's pretty good. My live editor, for all of you who are watching, is completely freaking out right now. I suspect it has to do with the plethora of issues that have been happening to me ever since I upgraded to a 3080. It has been fraught with issues. It's probably some driver thing that corrupted something or another. Who knows? So yeah, I don't have all my hotkeys set up or anything like that. It also means our lower thirds aren't properly set up either. But my week has been good. Yeah, I had a chill weekend. Got some work done. But this week is looking a little bit better, a little bit more productive, a little bit more on task and everything like that, but nothing specifically interesting. How about you?
I see. It's actually relevant to my topic. I replaced my Wi-Fi card with I talked about it last time, I think, it's a bit wrong. So it is a wireless access point, but that is not like, it has multiple features, and that is not the feature I'm using anyways. So I'll get to it later. But I set that up. It kind of works as intended. It also kind of doesn't work as intended. So, but yeah, I'll get to that later. Other than that, I bought another drive to put Windows on. That's also very relevant.
You've capitulated.
Somewhat. So maybe I should have talked about. I just realized as a game developer too, trying to get things to work on Linux. Maybe if I don't have notes on that, maybe I'll just append that to what I'm talking about. Briefly. But that's pretty much all.
Cool.
Oh, right. I forgot I'm like the introductory person. All right. I have to keep going. All right. Any news in movies?
Not that I noticed, because I wasn't really paying attention last week. My business was quite busy, and there's a lot of things happening at once, so did not pay attention at all to what was going on in the film world. Trying to think if anything interesting has been happening. Not really. Not that I can think of. I've been really internally focused, so I have no idea what's been going on in the world.
Okay. Well, there's been some news in the gaming industry. One of them, it's not old. It's like last week. I don't know. So whatever. But Ubisoft announced that they would no longer be supporting servers, or at least they'd be removing servers for certain some of their titles. I can't remember which ones they are, but I remember thinking that these games are some of them are old, right? It's pretty old. And it's like, all right, fair enough. Some of them like not even that old. And the big controversy is kind of normal to pull the plug on servers when a game is a bit old. But I think if I understand correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, that you might lose out on single player content too when this happens, because Ubisoft has fairly aggressive DRM which means that for a lot of the games, such as I remember playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint, you would have to have a constant internet connection to play it, even if you're not playing with anyone else. So yeah, and I think it affects a lot of DLCs and stuff like that. Some games are like partially playable. I don't know when this is happening, by the way. I don't know if it happened already. I don't think it has, but yeah, people don't really like that. Second thing is Unity has bought a company. Oh, I have a question. What is the difference? What is like when does an acquisition become a merge? You know.
A merger, if I understand, I'm not an expert on acquisitions and mergers, but I believe a merger is when you are combining forces into a. I think I don't know if it's literally a new entity or if there's some sort of like structural change that you can register if you're a corporation. I have no idea how it works really, but I thought a merger is like what Activision Blizzard did pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas like an acquisition's like you actually just bought out the other company, and the other company has no decision making power ultimately anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, it would seem Unity has merged with another company, but it's weird because I'm pretty sure the other company is like fairly smaller. Like it makes you think like it's more like an acquisition type thing, but I guess it doesn't have to be. But yeah, they merged with a company called Iron Source, which is also a bit of controversy there too. As a large company, has as of 2021, it had over 1,000 employees. It's traded on the stock market, the New York Stock Exchange. Although it's a Israeli-based company, interesting. And I think the reason why it's controversial is because Iron Source is I believe it's a advertisement company. They deal with advertisements, essentially, Iron Source doesn't really have the greatest reputation. So, from what I understand, they created some software. I'm forgetting. It has something to do with installing programs, right? And essentially, people would use the software maliciously to bundle malware with using their software, right? Now, this isn't really necessarily their fault, right? It's just someone using their software to do malicious things, as far as I understand. So this is why they kind of, it got to the point where I believe Windows Defender was just marking all these Iron Source downloader things as potentially unwanted programs. So yeah, there's that. So some people are like, or some people are like, advertisements, we don't want them in Unity or whatever. I don't know. Like, I don't really know what's gonna happen. I feel like it probably doesn't really matter that much. Is my guess. I feel like I'm probably not gonna notice any difference for a bit at least, And if I do notice the difference eventually, I'm gonna assume it's not gonna be anything particularly crazy. So yeah, that's that. My live news this week. Whoa. Okay, I have no news. I just like, because I'm on a news site, right? To like reference all this stuff. Yeah. I see headline: CD Projekt's share value has plummeted 75% post Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah, that's insane. Wow. Jeez. Okay. Well.
Yeah, that's not good. It's definitely not good.
Wow. All right. Well, that's that. All right. So, I guess that's all for news, and move on to our first segment. All right. Ready for the transition?
Yeah. And 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome to the gaming segment of the Mixed Media Podcast. I'll be talking about Linux and how I don't believe it to be the future of gaming, or at least not in any foreseeable future. Maybe, late future, but not now. not with current technology or the way technology seems to be developing. All right, so I as you may know, I've said this before, I switched to Linux at some point from Windows. I've used Windows pretty much my entire life, other than Mac for like in middle school a little bit. I actually used Linux maybe a year or two ago for a bit. I forgot what happened. Oh, I remember what happened. Yeah, my hard drive got corrupt. That wasn't a Linux problem. It just happened. like literally like I think a couple of weeks after I got it. So yeah, it was an old hard drive. So then I went back to Windows, or whatever, because I was dual booting at the time, so I already had Windows, so I just stuck with it. Until eventually I got fed up with Windows and said, all right, I'm making the switch. I hear that Linux gaming is not that bad. Linux software, is getting better. Compatibility issues declining. No, well, yes, maybe it's declining, but it's not the greatest experience. Not all that I thought it would be. I'll say that. So right now I've been running Linux for about a month and a week at this point. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about why Linux doesn't really have great native support. I'm going to talk about compatibility, performance, and hardware, and both those in terms of hardware and software. So as for why Linux does not have native support, one of the big things is it doesn't have DirectX support. So DirectX is a library created by Microsoft that's proprietary. It only runs on Windows. That is used. It's a general API. Be non-technical. It's a general tool that helps developers of all sorts of applications develop things such as games for the Windows platform. Now, if you make a game with DirectX, it is not going to be natively compatible with Linux or Mac OS. So yeah, and it's very prominent in many games. DirectX, there are alternatives, which I'll probably touch on a little bit later, but yeah, that is a big problem. The second thing is that there is a sort of kind of a meme in the game dev community that once you start supporting Linux, all of a sudden all your bug reports start becoming just Linux bug reports, and that you tend to on your bug fixing journey you'll find that Linux tends to create like a disproportionately large amount of bug reports relative to Windows, and we'll talk about why that might be in the future later. I forgot to write that down, so I wrote that down in my notes to talk about it later. The next thing is culture. So Linux has a very interesting culture that emphasizes not everyone, right, but there's a large group of people who it's a spectrum, right? So there's some people who believe that all software should be free and open source, and there's like it is morally wrong to have software that is not free and open source, right? And then you have everything in between, from there to like I don't care, right? And everything in between, like open software should exist, free software should whatever it is. And a lot of that culture drives people to just pirate games. And so even if you supported Linux, it's like, all right, well, suddenly like in the small market share of people, a lot of them are pirating my game anyways. It's like, it's not going to really make you necessarily want to develop for the platform. Another reason is it has a lack of unified body, which I'll touch on later as well. Whereas Mac OS has Apple behind it. Windows has Microsoft behind it. Linux has not necessarily much in terms of a unified force behind it. But yeah, I'll get to that later. And lastly, as I alluded to before, really small market share. So every year, Steam does a little hardware survey where you can opt into it, and essentially they'll just grab your hardware and software metrics, and then they'll aggregate it to one nice little data sheet you can look at yourself. And they found that these survey participants, only 1.18% of them were using some form of Linux. Now, note that the Steam Deck actually does run on Linux. But this survey, the 2022 one, came out only a couple months after the Steam Deck came out. So, you could say, the Steam Deck didn't really it wasn't really out there in force. I believe the survey happened in February 2022. I'm going to say Steam Deck came out March. So just a month later. So, not really much time for people to be buying Steam Decks and stuff like that. All right, so first the big topic is compatibility. That's like the thing you always hear is like so bad about Linux, is that there's not much software that's compatible with Linux because Linux has native support. Well, the great thing is that Linux has many ways of getting around this issue. So there are things that have existed for ages, like Wine. If you don't know, Wine is a compatibility layer, which means that it, keeping it simple, it translates Windows API calls to Linux or Mac OS API calls. It works on Mac OS as well. If you don't know what that means, it just means that it's a magic software that makes Windows programs usually tend to work especially simple ones, work on Linux or Mac OS, no problem. Not no problem. It's a bit inconvenient. It creates its own file system. It has to emulate the Windows file system, so I have a C drive folder, and then you have the whole program file structure. By the way, a little tangent. I didn't realize, but the Windows file structure is really bad compared to Linux, in my opinion, or the Unix type file system in general. It's like, how many times have you downloaded a program and it put things in your documents folder that are not documents? Why does it do that? I'm pretty sure like there are like games that'll put like certain file, like data files in your documents folder. And it's like, for what reason? This is not a document.
Is that the file system's fault?
Well, it's just the way like there's no there's no. It's not as standardized, I think, is the issue. Whereas like Linux is very like rigid. Like, okay, these folders are meant for this. You do not put like these things here, right? In fact, a lot of programs won't even touch your documents area or anything like that. Your home folder doesn't really, they don't chill there. It's nice. It's a lot easier to find things, I guess, in a way, because of that. And I think it's just generally a nicer system. Although the file names are absolutely obscure at the root level because they're all 3-letter. It's like old. I think it's old Unix. All the file system stuff from Mac OS and Linux come from Unix, which is a predecessor to both of them. And at the time, for some reason, they only had, at least for these folders, they only had a 3-character folder name. So you think you have things like var, VIR. It's like, what does that mean? I don't know. Or there's like USR, which you might think stands for user. It doesn't. It stands for like I don't remember. It's like 3 separate words. Although people say user folder anyways, because it actually does contain your user folder. So people just say user. But 99 Crisis kind of disagrees with the Linux file system a bit. Windows/DOS fan. I don't know. I feel like once you learn what the folders do, like at first it's obscure. It's like, what is a bin folder? It's a binaries folder. But like, once you learn what they are, it's like, then everything just falls into place. Everything is where you expect it to be, Anyways, it's a bit of a tangent. So Wine. But Wine is an open source piece of software. It's free. It's had over 1,700 different contributors, creating their little contributions to the cool open source project over the years. Works on all Unix-based systems. So, as I said before, Linux, Mac OS, and even if for some reason you're using BSD or some BSD-based operating system and Solaris, you can also game on those, I guess, if you so choose. And as well, if that doesn't work, because sometimes Wine is incapable of doing the job, there's also Proton. Proton is not open source, or actually, I think it is open source. My bad. It is not. It's not the same type of project. It is owned by Valve, the creators of Steam. And you might be saying, well, it's a pretty good play given that they own the Steam Deck and it's like a tool. I believe Proton existed before the Steam Deck, but I could be wrong with that though. But they kind of go hand in hand. So Proton is actually it's just a fork of Wine. So it just takes Wine and it builds upon it some very specific game related patches to get more game oriented stuff to work. I've seen a lot of like graphics things, for example, with 3D acceleration and whatnot. I've seen there's a lot of that going on. There are 3 general types of I wrote something wrong. Fixed. Okay. 3 general types of Proton versions that you can use. You can use like the standard version. You just download Steam, and then it comes with Proton, whatever. You can get the experimental Proton version, which you can opt into, which sometimes Proton won't really work correctly to emulate. Emulate as a compatibility layer for whatever game you're trying to run. So you get the experimental version, which has a few extra features, but might be a bit less stable. So trade-off. Certain games that work better on experimental than the standard version, stable version. And there's Proton GE, which is someone, I think his name is Eggrolls on GitHub, forked Proton and made his own specialized version of it. And it's very interesting that like Proton GE actually tends to be a solution to everyone's problems. It's like Proton doesn't work, I don't even go to experimental, go to GE, and it just works. Interesting. On top of that, Proton. Actually, I don't think this is owned by Valve, but there is a ProtonDB website, protondb.com, which, yes, this site has no affiliation with Valve. ProtonDB essentially is a website that lists a whole bunch of different titles on Steam, and people can report whether it worked or not on Proton, essentially. And if it didn't, or if it did, what sort of tweaks they might have had to do to get it to work, stuff like that. Once you post your specs too, to if you're using a different distro, which we'll talk about later, might affect how you actually get the game to work. So it's a super useful website, and obviously you don't want to buy a game that you know doesn't work on your operating system. So being able to open Proton DB and determine that, hey, this game just will not work on Linux no matter what, or hey, this game for sure works, or anything between. It's good type of security to have. It's also even more software you can use. There's Lutris. Lutris is like a launcher for games. It's like Steam in a way, except you can even launch Steam games from it. You can launch Epic games from it. You can launch Origin games from it. You can launch virtually any game from it, right? It's just a launcher. Now, the good thing about this launcher is that if you want to, let's say you want to get, let's say you want to get Call of Duty, right? I actually have no idea if Call of Duty has native Linux support. Let's say it doesn't. You want to get Call of Duty. What you can do is go to Lutris website, lutris.net. You search Call of Duty, whichever one you want, I guess. And then you'll find that people have created different patches of the game. And you click install on whichever patch you want. And essentially what it does, it installs the game, and then it changes a bunch of different settings for you to make it compatible with Linux. Might change files around, whatever it does, right? It essentially it just runs code. That is essentially all Lutris does is it downloads the game and then runs code, or runs code before it downloads the game. It just has a custom installer, essentially is what I'm going to say. A custom installer for the game that might let the game work. And as well, some games might require that you add in extra command line arguments and stuff like that. Lutris lets you essentially type in some command line arguments, and every time you run the game, it'll run with those command line arguments. Right, okay, we're almost done with the software. There's also a software called Game Mode, which I think, personally, I don't like the name, but whatever, it's confusing. But it's called Game Mode. Game Mode is created by a company called Feral Interactive, which specializes in porting games that are Windows-based to Unix systems. So I believe they ported The Witcher 3, I think is one of them, for example. They've ported to Unix-based systems. And essentially what Game Mode does is it allows you to create optimizations for individual games using the software. You run it with Game Mode and some command line arguments, and you can get specialized optimizations that boost performance in general for the game. Okay, now if all these fail, which is not uncommon, by the way, if all these fail, you have one more option. You have the virtual machine, okay? You have this magic box, right? A virtual machine essentially lets you, technically not an emulator. Actually, I believe an emulator is different, technically. But it's the same sort of idea in the end goal. Essentially what you do with a virtual machine is you download Windows, or you don't have, if you're using it for Windows, which in terms of gaming you would be, you download Windows, slap it on the virtual machine, and I'm not going to explain how it works. I'm just going to say it does work. It lets you run Windows on your Linux machine. Now, this comes with a very apparent consequence when you first start using it, is that you do not have access to hardware acceleration from your discrete graphics card. Even if it's integrated, I believe it will not perform as well as your GPU actually does within the Linux environment, right? So what you have to do, you have two options. You basically cannot run any games that are anything complex, essentially, without proper GPU support. So what you have to do, you have two options, or two forms of one option. You need to do is GPU pass-through, which is this fancy thing where essentially you get your GPU to actually just function correctly, as if it were just natively in the system. You can actually get, apparently, I don't know how this is possible, you can get greater than native performance doing this method. I don't know why this works, but it does. It's I say greater, it's like, okay, maybe probably within the statistical margin of error. It's basically the same. It's as good as bare metal performance. It's beautiful, right? Great, sounds great. Except there are two types. There's single GPU pass-through and double GPU pass-through. Single GPU pass-through is what you do if you have one GPU, which nearly everybody has. Only one GPU in your computer. This is an absolute pain, and I would not recommend it. It is very finicky, it can break. Mine has, I don't mean break as in like break a car or something like that, right? As in it might just stop working one day, which in my case, it just stopped working someday. After doing all the process to get it to work, it just stopped working. I could go and fix it. I'm just lazy. I instead bought another drive to put Windows on it. It's just easier. And the second option you have is double GPU pass-through, or I don't know, it's a bit of a misnomer. You're not passing through both your GPUs. You just have two GPUs and you're passing through one of them. And what this lets you do is it's a lot simpler process. See, the issue with single GPU pass-through is, well, what happens when you assign your GPU to only perform on Windows and not Linux? Well, essentially your entire desktop disappears, which is interesting. Which means all your programs in the background close. Is kind of like it's not like the greatest situation, but at least it works, right? Well, it's not always something like you're like meant to do. It's not like something like it's very like supported and stuff like that, right? It's very like when you do this, you have to go into your virtual machine and change a whole bunch of settings. You have to sometimes some people have to, if you have an NVIDIA card, you have to download a custom driver patch, for example. At least as of now, luckily I'm on AMD, so no need to do that. Or you don't have to download you can also just edit it yourself. It's not that hard. I've seen the instructions to remove some stuff. Actually, NVIDIA used to straight up not let you do GPU pass-through without jumping through like 90 hoops. And at some point, they just said, yeah, you can do it. I don't know why. I don't know what their motive was. But at some point, they're like, no, yeah, you go ahead. But yeah, these are your options in terms of software compatibility fixes. All right. Now, here are the problems. They don't work a lot of times. A lot of times they do work. Let me tell you my experience. So my first game I ever tried was Hearts of Iron using Proton. I have it on Steam. I used Proton. No big deal. Game actually ran out of the box just fine, right? Performance was fine. Everything was good. The only issue were some icons. I know it's a very odd bug. I actually read this would happen before I got it. Some icons are misplaced in a way you can't really read them. It's not really a big deal. It's kind of smushed together. As long as you don't go to the menu, you don't have to think about it. And they're not really important icons, so you kind of look out there. Very strange. But I thought this is a very promising start to my Linux journey, right? At least the game runs. It's kind of magical, the fact that they didn't even program the game for this platform, but I got to run on this entirely different platform. Kind of magical, kind of cool. Then I started getting more games, and I started to realize, it doesn't really work that great. One thing I noticed is there are actually hardware issues too. So my GPU works fine with Linux. Everything, your GPU, most things actually should just work fine on Linux. Most of your hardware. One thing that tends to not work are Wi-Fi cards. I don't know why. It's very random. But Wi-Fi cards tend to not work well on Linux. They're made specifically for Windows, and the drivers they're not friendly with Linux. Some of them straight up do not work. So in my case, mine is extraordinarily slow to the point where I had to replace it with that thing I mentioned before. That is like a 5-in-1 combo. It can be a router, by the way. It can be a router. It can be a Wi-Fi access point. It can be a Wi-Fi extender. It can be a bunch of things. But what I'm using it for, well, you see, the Linux has no issue with Ethernet, right? Ethernet, I guess, is standardized enough. It does not matter. So how my device works, right, is all it does is it's called client mode. It just takes Wi-Fi from my actual router, right? The router I normally use. It works fine. It plays nicely with the router, whatever. Then it has an Ethernet cable that plugs into my computer, essentially, right? Essentially, I'm just abstracting the Wi-Fi connection by one device, essentially, is what I'm doing. Now, you could say, oh, why don't you just buy a Linux-compatible Wi-Fi card? Because sometimes it's actually a mixed bag. You can buy something that is supposedly Linux-compatible, and it does not work. Not because, now, it'd be one thing if they advertise them as Linux-compatible. The Wi-Fi companies usually don't. What happens is, apparently the issue is that the Wi-Fi card has a little a chip in it, right? A computer chip in it. Now, the same model of Wi-Fi card could have a different chip in it. They won't tell you on the box. They could just swap out the chip. It has the same exact outer interface or whatever, right? They just change the chip in the card. Probably random, at this point it's we made a deal with this manufacturer of chips or whatever, and whatever. Potentially it's a mixed bag. You don't actually know what chip you're getting. You can do it with high reliability, but I don't want to deal with it. I just got this box because it's pretty cheap and it's like a magical box. It can do a bunch of things. All right, cool. So yeah, it actually works. So I actually have the issue is actually the Wi-Fi speed is not as fast as Windows. My Wi-Fi card is just better. It's just way better, right? As you would expect, cheap box that does a bunch of things. It's not going to excel at anything probably in particular. It's going to be good. It's going to be decent at everything, but it's acceptable speeds where before when I was playing Rocket League, I could not finish a match. I am teleporting, everything's teleporting. There's nothing like, there's no semblance of reality going on in this game, but now I can play. So, it is a fix, but, one that I wish I didn't have to do.
Real quick. Otherwise, real quick, 99 Crime says, I think there may be a bit of emulation involved, though. I think he's talking about when you're talking about emulation versus VMs. If MS-DOS 6 can run on a VM, then that means it has to emulate the 16-bit subsystem. I don't know if modern chips can do that natively, I think. Now, I have a little bit of computer engineering background. Well, I mean, that's my degree. So, and I took one class on computer architecture. So in short, I don't really know the answer, but the interesting thing about modern chips is that you have like 90s chip instruction sets still supported by your Ryzen and whatever Lake systems still supporting like 90s processor instructions. So I'm not sure 16-bit. I mean, yeah. But I'm pretty sure what I studied were 32-bit processors mostly. I don't remember studying a 16-bit processor, so I don't know if the instructions are just that tiny that they can't be ported over, and they were ported over earlier when the pain was less. But it's definitely possible that your chip might be able to run DOS 6, which is very interesting. x86 backwards compatibility, go crazy. Yeah. Yeah. It's for the banks, by the way. The banks are the big customer that complains if you try to change the underlying instruction set, which is hilarious. I know OG x86 can do 16 and 32-bit, and x64 can do 32 and 64. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So there you go. Well, that means that your processor probably doesn't do it, but the
thing is, I think that there's an emulation. Virtual machine uses hardware virtualization. So yeah, it's like a thing that relies in part on your actual CPU to do things. Emulation, I don't actually entirely understand it, but I do know that emulation doesn't necessarily require that you download the operating system that you want to use. So if you're emulating, tend to emulate maybe an old console, you don't have to download the old console's operating system onto your computer necessarily for the emulation to work. I don't really know how it works. But yeah, I wish I did. But yeah, so, right. Oh yeah, so you might be thinking, and everything. Oh, I forgot to explain. So I looked up, I have Jedi Fallen Order, right? I posted about it on Discord. I thought, well, ProtonDB says, it works. Lutris says, actually it's unrated on Lutris. You can rate things on Lutris. It's unrated if not enough people play, and rate it, but it doesn't have an installer or whatever. I think it's a pretty simple one. I think it literally just installs the game. It doesn't do anything special, I'm pretty sure. Proton, I should say, also has ratings that are, I think it's, what is it? It's like unplayable, bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Platinum essentially meaning that, and native. Native meaning that runs natively on Linux. Platinum is like, it runs as good as native, even though it's not native. Gold is where you can start getting some, a couple, I think GTA is gold. I played GTA actually, no issues, not a single issue. I think it's the only game I ever played on Linux that, and Rocket League. I think those are the two games I played that literally just no issues. But yeah, which is interesting because I believe Rocket League uses easy anti-cheat, maybe. Or is it BattleEye? Whichever one Epic Games owns. I think it's easy anti-cheat, which is a big, I forgot to say that, big issue with Linux games. Specifically, you'll notice like almost no multiplayer games work is because of anti-cheat. And anti-cheat companies it's just harder to manage anti-cheat, having to have anti-cheat software work on multiple operating systems. It's just easier if you just eliminate the entire problem of the 1% community, right? And just focus on the big Windows 96% or 98%, whatever it was, 96%. So easy anti-cheat is a big problem, but I got it to work anyway, so I don't know. Actually, on Proton DP was nice. It'll actually have a little warning symbol, even if it's like gold or whatever. If it uses an anti-cheat system, it'll tell you like, hey, the warning's nice because maybe hey, the single player works well, but you're gonna have anti-cheat issues potentially with multiplayer. But yeah, anyways. So yeah, I tried to play Jedi Fallen Order. Lucas had an installer. Proton DB said it worked pretty well. Downloaded it, did not work. I got to the loading screen. And once I could not get into the main menu, it kept crashing right before that. I tried so many different times. Now, the great thing at Proton DB is that when people leave reviews, they can leave things like custom command line arguments, various things they have to do to get it to work, and some people have their operating system attached to it. And I am using so if you don't know, Linux comes in various different flavors, which is a problem that I'll get to later. My particular one is called Manjaro. So you can find people who have who are using Manjaro, specifically on Proton DB, and see what they did to fix it. Their fixes did not work. I think the reason is because I don't have Jedi Fallen Order through Steam, so I don't have Proton on it. I'm using just regular old wine. So I'm thinking that maybe there's just some Proton specific patches that I'm required to have, which really sucks. I was like, I'm almost there, probably. You know what I'm saying? I just need a little more. Now I think I could be wrong. I've heard that you can get Proton to work outside of the Steam environment. I do not care enough to try to do that. That is, at this point, I become in the realm of like, it's painful. I do not want to have to do this for every single game. Not literally, but I don't want to think about this, anymore. Pretty much. I tried for so long with Fallen Order, and it just could not get it to work. I've also had performance issues with Star Wars Battlefront 2. That game actually runs, which is great, but when you first load into a match, it's like mad freezing. I think it's when it has to cache things, or prior to caching things, which essentially means like when something's loaded in for the first time, say from disk, then you load it into your RAM, and then from RAM it's a lot faster to use. Maybe it's like a particle effect or something like that, or explosion, for example, or a sound effect it could even be. So it seems like at the start, there's things that are just being cached, and it just I don't know why, it just hangs the game for a bit. For maybe like half a second or something like that, maybe 2 seconds. But then middle of the match, end of the match, it's just fine. It's smooth. I'm getting good performance. Everything's just fine. So for the most part, it's good. I'd say I think it's rated as gold on Proton DB. I think that makes sense. It's like almost native performance. Almost everything works. It's just not quite. So okay. The reason why I think really that there's not really much of a foreseeable future for Linux gaming is that for the average person, it's way too many hoops to jump through to get things to actually work. Whether it be adding command line arguments, come on, who knows what command line arguments are? Okay. The average person does not know what a command line argument is. Okay, and yes, Lutris makes things easier. But it's still you have to open Lutris, go to the configuration of the game, and then you have to copy and paste some command line arguments that make no sense to anybody in this thing. Is that really something that I don't know? It's gonna make a lot of people not want to get it.
Couldn't someone make an auto, something that does that automatically?
So that's what Lutris I think would do for some configurations. That just adds the command line arguments to the Lutris profile, right? The issue is. What if you're downloading it? Okay, so let's say you use Lutris, right? In my case, Fallen Order did not have a custom installer. I'm pretty sure, at least. It had a generic installer. I think actually instructions said I think the installer installs Origin. Actually, the installer for Fallen Order will install Origin, and then it says to install it yourself from Origin, right? And I had some issues with that because of essentially it's a long thing, but essentially doing that create a separate wine profile, so Lutris saves things in a separate fake Windows environment as the default fake environment. So I actually have 2 C drives on my computer, 2 fake C drives, right, in different locations. I also have 2 copies of, I I'm confused at this point, man. I don't even know where my Fallen Order copy is. But I do know Lutris creates its own, and I don't know, some garbage. Okay, anyways. But yeah, that was an issue. Yeah, I don't think I'm trying to debug it myself. Is the average person consumer going to debug their games? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think that's what's going to happen.
Trust me, there are some like city skylines. Talk about debugging your games. Sometimes you're literally like, oh yeah, I'm going to sit down and play some city skylines, and it's like an hour in, and you're just trying to figure out why you're having some random mod error because the game is unplayable, and it's like
I feel like people will be more accepting because at least it's a mod error, It's not, it's like, something that's not natively in the game, It's like, it's not official, really.
True.
In this case, I'm trying to play the official game just as is, But no, it cannot be, apparently. Now, another issue is that on ProtonDB is people are using all different sorts of operating systems, we'll say, because it's also a dumb thing, and if I say dumb, people will be triggered probably. Okay, I would say in Linux, what is the operating system? So people say Linux is just a kernel, right? Which it is a kernel, right? Oh, you're frozen. Oh, hello.
I think my camera died, so I'm gonna go fix that real quick.
All right. Well, so people say Linux is just a kernel, which it is a kernel. So do you call it the Linux operating system? I don't know. Okay, I have my opinion. I don't really care enough to debate about it. It's not that important to me. So I'll say that Linux, there are multiple operating systems that include Linux. That's what I'll say, right? As I said before, Manjaro is one such operating system. The most popular one is Ubuntu. Most popular one for desktop use. Actually, not. Because so many servers use Android might be the most popular Linux distribution, or maybe Debian for servers. I don't know. Anyways, but for desktop use, Ubuntu is the most popular one. Now, this means that when people are making, say, Linux versions of things or Linux patches, they might be targeting Ubuntu. I'm not on Ubuntu. That's the big issue here. Which means that in some cases, their patch might not work for me. So you have this big issue where, here I am with 1.8% of gamers trying to fix my issues, right? And of these 1.8% of gamers, not all of them are even using my operating system. So it's like, what? Like it's even more granular than that in terms of people who are actually running the same software as me, who are having the same type of issues. Yes, in general, Linux solutions will work across the board for a lot of these games, but not in all situations. Actually, what's interesting is on the same survey, it actually shows a breakdown of the most popular Linux distributions. I should say the operating systems. Linux operating systems are called distributions, or distros for short. So it actually shows a breakdown of the most popular distros. Ubuntu, despite being massively more popular in terms of general desktop use, is not the most popular on Steam. It's actually Arch. Arch. The reason might be because Arch is highly customizable, which allows you to potentially to tailor your desktop for a gaming and more towards a gaming environment, I guess, is my guess. Might have a lot more software. You have access to what's called the Arch user repository, which is a nice, fancy, big software box, essentially, of various pieces of software you can download. Actually, Manjaro is an Arch-based system, so I also have access to a lot of the great things about Arch, such as the Arch user repository, which I have actually downloaded random things to get things that don't work on my distro to actually work. Not game related stuff necessarily, but it's super cool. And I think Manjaro is listed as second. So or maybe it might be either Arch Ubuntu Manjaro or Arch Manjaro Ubuntu. It's worth noting that Manjaro is often considered the gaming distro by some because it includes things like a lot of drivers, for example. It includes and it's more user friendly than Arch, the native space Arch, like a lot more. So yeah, and how's this for a gaming experience? on the gold standard, or some people might say Pop OS, which is based on Ubuntu, or based on Ubuntu or Debian. Ubuntu is based off of Debian, so I don't actually remember if it's straight up Ubuntu based or if it's Debian based. Either way, it is not Arch based. Some people say Pop OS is the is the future of gaming. No, does not seem so to me. So, okay, best case scenario. Okay, now let's say all your all your wine, your Proton, your Lutris, your game mode, none of these work. As I said before, the final thing is the virtual machine, right? You got that GPU passer. That's got to be guaranteed to work, right? It's literally just Windows. It's straight up Windows, right? It's straight up Windows, but not on Windows. Not. It is actually on Windows, but it's not running on your bare metal system except for your GPU, right? Let's assume you figure out the single GPU passer. Assuming it has not broken like it did break for me. Assuming maybe you have two GPUs. You have two GPUs, and it's actually not that unlikely because you can buy a really cheap GPU for your Linux stuff, right? It's something super strong if you're just doing simple office work, which I do game development, so I couldn't do that. I have to actually buy a second actually decent GPU. So that wouldn't work for me. But if it works for you, you can get a cheap GPU, or if you have an integrated GPU, that work too. A nice discrete one to use the Windows, right? Sounds great. Well, guess what? This is a recent development. Recently, I got screwed over by time here. Recently, certain games have decided, hey, if you're running on a virtual machine, we're not going to let you play anymore. Why? I know why. Okay, so it started with Valorant. Valorant has the most aggressive anti-cheat system in the world. I say Snoopy. It's not aggressive. Let's be honest. Punkbuster A is the most aggressive anti-cheat in the world. Okay, but the thing that actually looks into your files and looks at it, really examines the core of your computer through and through. That is Valorant's Vanguard anti-cheat system, right? Okay. Vanguard does not like it. Now, I kind of get that. Well, I don't get it. I get it as for what Vanguard is, and that it really is very particular. And the fact that, for example, I can fake what CPU I have on a virtual machine. In fact, it said I had a Threadripper on my virtual machine. The reason being is that for some reason I could not actually get Windows to install without saying that I had an EPYC processor, and EPYC is like the Threadripper line of AMD stuff. So yeah, because I need the architecture, the particular architecture of CPU. Apparently, I don't know why, but apparently I have the world's only 4-core 8-thread. Or no, sorry, 6. I have 6-core 12-thread Threadripper in the world. Apparently, is what I have, according to that. Now, you actually used to be able to get around this. You used to be able to get around Vanguard, and there's this thing called I can't remember. It's some Microsoft feature, Windows feature that essentially lets you if you're running a virtual machine, you can turn on a setting in Windows to not let your software know that you're running in a virtual machine, right? It's some magic Windows software that obfuscated the whole thing, right? You were able to turn it on, you were able to play Valorant easy, right? They patched it. I don't know how. I feel like this is directly contrary to Microsoft wishes, right? Because if the software is meant to do that, right, and it's kind of that kind of sucks. But they patched it, and actually, I started using Linux post patch, so I never got to experience the patch days. And essentially, this arms race between the Linux gurus who are just like, I need to get Valorant or X Games to run on a virtual machine, right? And then Riot, who's like, okay, patch. And the issue is that the patches tend to be really short between patches for making a network, but the things need to be done. The developments from the Linux community tend to take a really long time, right? Well, it's like, all right, you can play your Valorant for 1 week, and then you can't play for like 2 months, that kind of thing, So large arms race essentially. And then a lot of games started following suit. So I can't remember which anti-cheat it is. It's the one that Rainbow Six Siege uses. I think it's BattleEye or Easy Anti-Cheat. I think it's BattleEye though. They said, hey, they started. If you're using a virtual machine, you're getting banned. I think some people got permanently banned too for using a virtual machine without warning. Like it wasn't like yeah. So apparently, a virtual machine can be used to cheat. I don't know anything. I don't actually know what it does. I assume they have a reason, But my question is it really that many people who actually do it? I don't know. Oh yeah.
You're freezing a bit. I don't know if it's just I don't think it's just on my end. You're freezing a bit.
But
oh no.
Am I intelligible? What I'm saying?
Oh, now I can hear you again, but I can't see. You're frozen.
Oh. All right, I guess. Where did I cut off? Did I cut off in terms of my words?
Oh wait, actually, it seems as though the problem is on my end because we're repeatedly disconnecting to Rumble. So I wonder if my internet is freaking out. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. Well, I think the YouTube might be down.
Saying YouTube is down?
It might be. I'm trying to like. Wait. No, it's
up. It's up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. Sorry, people. The Rumble light has come back on solid, so it looks like should be okay, and you sound smooth again. Oh, and your video's back. All right.
Somewhat back. I seem to be highly compressed suddenly.
Yeah. Okay. We'll continue. Sorry about that.
Where did I cut off?
I don't really know because it's hard to understand what you were saying.
Oh yeah, I was just saying stuff about virtual machines, right? Yeah. And yeah. So moral of the story, that's not allowed anymore by some games, right? All right. So now at this point, the only way to play certain titles like Valorant is to literally, as far as I'm aware, there's also this thing where if you found the solution, would you tell everyone about it? Because that's going to get patched, So it's like, is there a universe in which some guy like knows the solution, he's just not telling anyone? Probably, right? There might be some way, but like, okay, I'm thinking. I just thought about this myself for a long time. Actually, I'm like, okay, if I found a solution, right? I remember I thought of something. I forget what I thought of. Oh, I remember what I thought of. I'm going to say it because I don't care anymore. But I thought, because now there is a version of Windows. There's a way to get Windows on a USB, right? You might have to jump through a tiny hoop, but it's not really a big deal. I was wondering, can you just like put Valorant on like a USB or something like that, and all the games you want on a USB? Yeah, load times would be slow, right? But like, it doesn't really matter. You load the game, you're fine at that point, right? Your USB probably gonna be burning hot while you're playing, but that's okay. I was wondering, like, can you just plug that into your computer, and then like you don't need to like dual boot properly? You don't need to have like a whole drive in your computer that has Windows on it or whatever. It's just on a USB, and it's just minimal size to just what you need to do whatever. Maybe you can even get Adobe software on it too. Not just games, whatever you need to get working. So yeah, that was my thought. But I was like, okay, if this actually works, I'm gonna tell people about this because I'm wondering, does Vanguard care if I play off of a USB that has a slightly jank version of Windows on it? A slightly not 99 Crimes I've seen people do it with League. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess it's possible. There you go. I actually have a spare USB I could have done it with. I could have tried. I was thinking about it, and then I was like, I don't really feel like it. So yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the solution to the Linux problems are known, but some guys like I'm not really gonna say anything because these anti people might try to like prevent this from happening. So yeah, that's I closed my notes on accident. Yeah, okay. That is pretty much the moral of the story. At the moment, Linux support sucks. It's being actively gooned on. Although you can say things like Valve and Epic Games have said they'll try to make it easy anti-cheat. I think it's easy anti-cheat, not bad ally. Now it has Linux support, but the developer has to actually opt into it, which is before like, do you really want like all the things that come with the Linux community? It's like then we don't like. The Linux members don't really help themselves necessarily in that regard. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, at this point, I got another drive. I'll be putting Adobe software on it. It's also a nice thing. Yeah, that is just that. I think it's just way too. It's like its compatibility is bad. And when it does work with a lot of single player games, it's way too hard for the average person to do. It's not simple enough. It's not simple as just download it and it works. You don't really have to think about it. So yeah, that's all.
Nice. That sounds like a process that I would not enjoy. Trying to figure all that stuff out. I'm sure you dumped hours into it.
Yeah, it's definitely been like it's been too long. It's way too long. I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I was trying to download Battlefront 2. Origin crashed 3 times doing that. I'm running Origin off of Wine because Origin there's no Origin Linux support as far as I'm aware. So yeah.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry to Linux fans out there. The truth.
Look, I'd actually recommend Linux. I think Linux is a superior operating system in terms of just everything else. So, like, if you're not like a big gamer, or if you know the games that you're gonna play, or if you have like a separate Windows computer or whatever, you know, or you know the games you can play, are not these games that don't let you play on virtual machines, and you have 2 GPUs or whatever. You know, there are cases in which this doesn't. Nothing I said really concerns you. It's just you'll either be able to run the games via a virtual machine, or you're not interested in these games anyways. Maybe you play only a couple games and they're all supported fine, or you don't play games at all. All right, for like normal office work, or even like even like things like that, a bit more intensive, like you think like video editing. Oh well, there's no CUDA support. Fine, okay, but or at least not great. There's no Premiere Pro, but there is DaVinci Resolve. Now, is it native? It's Ubuntu native, so you can. But if you have Arch, you use the Arch user file store. You get someone's custom jank patch, and I've used it. It works. So yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Sweet.
Oh, I forgot to say one thing. Oh, okay. Sorry, this is actually really important. Like one of the biggest things is that there are so many different distros that the amount of dev power is absolutely immense within the Linux community. There is so much dev work being done. Look at all these open source projects with daily updates, right? Not like they're pushing out daily, but as in like you look at the repos, daily work, random people doing work on this daily, right? Will there be a distro or Wine, for example? These things have so much work put into them, but they're so spread out. Like there's a whole team for Manjaro, there's a team for Arch, which okay, you can say, well, Arch and Manjaro, everything that Arch does might benefit Manjaro in some way, right? But then you have this whole other side of Debian-based systems, such as Ubuntu and Pop! OS, for example. And you have is the other tree Fedora or Red Hat? Is Red Hat an operating system, or is that the company that makes it? Can't remember.
It's both.
It's both, right? Is Red Hat based off of Fedora? Is Fedora based off of Red Hat? It's one or the other, right?
I think Fedora is Red Hat, isn't that usually used for like server applications and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's more. Like
Fedora is like based off of Red Hat, but like the light version, basically, without all the server and niceness. I don't know. That's what I think, if I remember correctly.
Mm. Well, Fedora has its own it's something based on Fedora that has its own gaming distro thing, right? It's like okay, all these branches, right? And it's like I don't know, man. Are we really gonna get much done here? In terms of like, I get it. A lot of people say, well, actually, it's the Linux powerhouse because you can get whatever you want. Okay, here's my base take. We just throw Debian out the window. We don't need that. We don't need Fedora. We don't need Red Hat. Okay, I think all we need here, we just need Arch. Arch is, I'm pretty sure. Okay, this is my base take is that I know Debian is like it's like the Linux, right? It's like all servers and like whatever. It's so stable, right? It doesn't matter. Get it out of here, okay? Because Arch is like modern, okay? It has customizability. That is the selling point. From there, you can do whatever you want. You can get Gentoo from Arch, and Gentoo you do whatever you want. Although I would not recommend myself. So yeah, I think the fact that it's so fractured and there's so many different. It's like the dev power of Linux might actually be greater than the dev power of say like Windows, for example, right? Like how often does Windows actually like gain features that people care about? Probably not that often, right? A lot of things might be in.
They added a whole bunch of like pictures to my bar now that like constantly connects me to some.
The bottom right thing.
The bottom right, the bottom left, the bottom everywhere. It's like, wow, I really wanted myself to be connected into whatever things Microsoft wants me to be connected into at all times.
You can download special software that will remove that for you.
Oh, just tell me where. I can't stand it.
I don't know. You have to look it up. I don't remember what it's called.
I can't stand it.
I was like some jank patch, might break down the line, but also, the start menu is kind of slow, right? When searching for files.
Yes. I
always thought it's because it connects to the internet, right? I was like, why don't you get rid of this internet thing, right? But no, because for me, it's instantaneous, and it also connects to the internet. It just works. Like fine, like I look at a file, like in any folder, does not matter. Well, not literally, but like it indexes a certain, select folders, like such as my home directory. The home directory on Linux is like it's like your user directory on Windows, right? So all your personal files, whatever. I type it, it's just there. Like, I don't have to like wait. It's just there immediately, right? None of this like weird thing where you type something in, then you press enter to select it, and something hops in front of it at the last moment because it lagged a little bit or something. I don't. It just works perfectly. So there's no excuse there. I don't know what that is. Some bad file indexing or something. I don't know. But yeah, Windows is inferior in general.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if all those devs that are working, even if you just got the devs that are working on one particular branch, they could just kind of start their own enterprise. I mean, or just a few groups of them coming together to make something like truly. I think the biggest thing is you need to have something unique enough that it's so unique that it starts to grab at like power users that aren't like really power users. You know what I mean? Like people who are not developers. The typical Linux people. The typical Linux bros. You appeal to like people who enjoy getting something else out of their OS to justify the activation energy required to move over, and then you get like the software development coming your way as well after that. To chase after those customers. I don't know how what that would look like, but
I think that's sort of the play of like Ubuntu and Ubuntu-based systems, and that's the reason why I kind of like kind of jokingly or kind of not jokingly at the same time, diss Ubuntu is like it's kind of funny because like very different. It's like it's supposed to work. It's supposed to just work. Yeah. It's something that you can throw your grandma on or whatever, and you just teach her how to use Ubuntu, right? And you're probably not going to run into issues, especially because your grandma would like be downloading specialty software, So, but even then, Ubuntu has great support relative to other Linux distros. So, yeah. Oh, there also have been there are now flat packs and snaps, which are different file formats that run on all Linux distributions. But the issue is that they're large files because they literally the issue is that they have to bundle like all dependencies because they don't know what you have and what you don't have.
Oh yeah.
So for example, if a program requires Python, well, okay, realistically speaking, every distro under the sun has Python installed. Let's be real. Okay, it's like one of the things that it's like, it's just I don't know. It's just how that works. Okay. Now, do you need Python? There's probably one distro. Okay, Gentoo. Gentoo probably because it's Gentoo probably does not have Python by default. I'm guessing because very bare bones, right? That's kind of the point. So you might make a flat pack that bundles in the Python with the right version, right? Which means it'll work, but it's like you should have a whole big file of just like a bunch of like things. That's like one of the beauties of Linux is that things share dependencies. I think is really nice. The fact that software has a very modular design, in which case Windows where you download the whole thing, whatever, and that's it. Linux tends to use dependencies, so multiple files, multiple programs use the same program. It's like super space efficient, right? And the whole package management deal is beautiful. It's absolutely wonderful. It's one of the best parts about Linux is the package manager. Today I just updated a whole suite of software with like a click. And it's like, and I was using the software while I was updating. No, I never had to restart my operating system for an update. And no more, Windows like randomly, you want to restart it for something, and Windows like, oh, by the way, I'm going to hold you hostage here for an hour. Just give me a second. No. You update Linux and you use it while you update it. It's beautiful, which you can do with Mac to some extent as well. I think only larger updates won't let you do that, but small updates will let you do that. I don't remember what my point was, but yeah, Linux good. Yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. All right, shall we hop into the next segment?
Sure.
Sweet. Now, we've only got 2 segments today because Ben is not here. I forgot to say that earlier, that Ben is not here this week. And
I said it earlier.
Oh, you didn't say that? Okay. Yeah. So the title says there's supposed to be an interview. That's going to be postponed until later. I believe he said that he needs to be back in LA in order to do that interview. So that'll be fun whenever that happens. And we'll let you know. But for now, we've got our next segment, which is the Arguing with Reddit segment. So without further ado, here we go.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. If you are in the chat right now, you've been watching, you are, you're still here. And thank you all for being here and joining us for this this Mixed Media Monday. If you are confused as to why I'm saying this stuff right now, it's because we cut this into segments afterwards for our podcast version. So if you want to check out our podcasts, you can go to Spotify, Twitcher, I was going to say Twitcher, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, pretty much everywhere you want to get your podcast, Amazon. You can go view our podcasts over there, and we'd appreciate any feedback in the review sections of those things. And please give us 5 stars so that we can get thrown around on all these platforms. That'd be great. I guess we should introduce ourselves again, reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. Who is you? Other way.
I'm David Nestor, game developer and 3D modeler.
Yeah, and Nathan just did a segment just a moment ago on Linux and its, woes with gaming. So if you want to check out some reality about using Linux for gaming, you can go check out that episode in our episode list wherever you're watching/listening right now. Now, today on Arguing with Reddit, we're not going to have our nice Arguing with Reddit format because, as I said at the top, I think my graphics card has caused some issue and my presets have, nuked themselves. In fact, my preview windows have been flashing every, 10 seconds, which is very concerning. Nothing has happened thus far, but, we'll play it by ear. So we're going to stay on this screen. It's going to be classic. This is how we used to do it. And I used to put the hot takes over stuff, which is exactly what we're going to be doing in a moment. So what is Arguing with Reddit? Arguing with Reddit is when my co-hosts and I, and we take turns, find a hot take about our respective interests within our respective artistic interests. So I'm a filmmaker. So Nathan has found some hot takes from mostly Reddit, or probably Reddit, for me to react to. I haven't seen it yet, and I've picked 2 this time for myself because Ben's not here, so we'll have 3 full reactions to do here. So I'll start with my own, since we have a lopsided one today. Let me pull it out of the hat real quick. So actually, I'll start with this one here. So this one is from... actually, I don't remember if it's from the Letterboxd subreddit. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's see. While I'm doing this, just know that you can always drop any hot take for any week. Actually, you don't even have to time it, right? You don't have to remember who's doing what when. Just drop it on the Discord, and the link is in the description. So if you want to drop a hot take to anything you want us to react to, it could be your very own hot take. Just drop in the Discord, and we'll react to it for sure live. Okay, so here we go. So this one is literally a post asking for hot takes. And I sometimes those can be good, sometimes those cannot be good. And yeah, it is on r/letterboxd. Let me pull it up real quick. Here it is. So that's gonna cover us while I have it up. But let's all find the hottest movie take out there. And so basically the thread is people trying to think of hot takes that they would like to share. Now, of course, whenever you have a thread like this on Reddit, you can't just scroll down and just look at the top upvoted posts, because then you're just going to get a whole bunch of, obviously, agreeable things. We want to sort by controversial. Let's see if I can do that in the editor's browser. Can I click the sort button?
Wait, oh, yeah. Editor has its own browser? It's not like, it's not like I always assumed it's just picking it up from a browser.
No, it's actually...
This is so interesting.
Yeah, I'm clicking in the preview window. I'm failing epically. Come on. Is it sorted by controversial? Oh, okay. I guess so.
It looks like it.
Okay. So the first one here says... And some of these were more interesting than others. I'd much rather switch a Star Wars movie I'd much rather watch a Star Wars movie or something from the MCU than a 7-hour black and white Serbian film about politics told through the eyes of a chimpanzee, with a chimpanzee represents the loss of innocence. And I just thought that was funny. It's just
wow, that's quite a description.
Let's quote the description. Now, I probably would rather watch something so absurd like that than anything from the MCU, but that's a really hot take. And if you're not ready for that hot take, then you're not ready. All right. Let's see. The next one here says Paul W.S. Anderson, M. Night Shyamalan, and Guy Ritchie are three of the greatest directors of all time. Each have one movie that is subpar or bad. The Sight, The Last Airbender. Okay. Obviously.
Oh, The Last Airbender. That is a memory that has come back.
Okay. Here, let me move this aside real quick because I want to be able to speak. Let's take this. Oh, wow. There's not really a good place to put this. All right. We're going to do that. Okay. Okay, same with the Wachowskis, but they don't make bad movies. Same with Zack Snyder, but I haven't seen 300, Dawn, or Ga'Hoole. I don't know what that is, actually. So I can't say it. Okay, I got the point here. Iron Man 3 is the best Marvel movie. Okay. Yeah, so, I got some hot takes in here, I suppose. So, Paul, the first one's not really a hot take, really. The most spicy thing in there is that M. Night Shyamalan, one of the best directors of all time. I just don't think you can be as inconsistent as he is. I agree, he makes great films, but The Last Airbender... What was the other one? Oh man, I can't remember the name. But he's had some stinkers, man. Some really bad movies.
I don't know anything about it. I don't think I've ever watched the movie room. I never watched the Avatar movie. I just you just kind of look at it, you just know. But is the way is he like a Dhar Mann type person? Is that
he's a what?
You know who Dhar Mann is?
No. What?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if you're ready. For such. Okay, I don't think he's I don't know why I get that vibe from when I hear his name. Okay, Dhar Mann is like a YouTuber. He was really popular, but he makes absolutely horrible videos. And they're short films. Really short films, right? Like 15 minutes or something like that, right? It was corny, it's the titles would be I don't know, a high school bully finds out what justice means or something like that. Okay, and it'll be the same exact structure. It'll be seemingly simple, casual or normal setting. Something bad happens to somebody. The plot thickens. The person gets karma to death essentially for doing whatever the bad thing was, and then it's some sort of some weird dopamine release system, right? It's oh man, wow, I'm so glad that the bad thing happened to the bad it's also all black and white, by the way. There's no interesting, it's not oh, what about his intentions now? It's literally just this guy's being rude, therefore he is the incarnation of evil, and at the end, whatever happens. I remember one of them was some of them are dumb too. Some of them don't make sense. Some of them was it's like a track race or something like that, right? I think one of them had a prosthetic leg or something like that, right? So he ran a little bit slower, right? And so one guy was oh, he shouldn't race for us for this big competition, right? I'm thinking, well, if he's slower, yeah. He got a point. I have nothing against that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The prosthetic leg.
I got you.
You could say if he had a prosthetic leg, but it was the same speed or fast, I'd be all right. And I was yeah, that's kind of a jerk move. Why can't he just run with you guys, right? It was literally it's some kind of state competition, right? And you're choosing people, right? And he is slower. I just don't get it. It's that detail didn't need to be added. That detail did not need to be added to the story. But anyways, then in the end, he ends up racing, or the guy who said you're not allowed to race, he got injured or something like that, I think. And then so the prosthetic leg guy had to step up, and he won the race, right? It's actually that brain dead of a story, right? That's what Dhar Mann is. These guys, I think he has has a lot of subscribers. It's all he does for various moral points of varying questionability or whatever, right? It's one that's like about like some like I think the mother says that the daughter can't play games because she's a girl or something like that, and it's like some whole and she becomes like an esports player or something like that. But anyways, I don't know why. That's my like associate. It's like my association or something like that with M. Night Shyamalan. I don't know if it's anything even like within the realm of like I don't know where I heard that from.
It's not anything like M. Night Shyamalan.
Never mind.
I don't think there's any semblance of that. That's really random, and I'm really glad I know what that is now. I might have to look that up later just for my own entertainment. It sounds hilarious.
I don't know if it's entertaining. It's kind of sad. I don't want to like. I think it actually makes me upset watching it because like people actually watched it. But, it's like I don't know. It's kind of like. Why? There's so many, like you're on YouTube, right? Yeah, there's like you can watch. There's so much like garbage content to watch. But like I think this is really the bottom of the barrel here. I know I'm probably offending everyone who's like you can watch a Darman here, right? Okay, but understand this is my opinion, right? I guess maybe Darman is actually secretly one of the greatest directors of all time. I just don't realize this. Whatever, right?
Next media episode's gonna be me saying why Darman's videos are the best of all time.
Actually, Darman might be one of those channels. I'm gonna look it up. He might have like so many new videos like so frequently. He might actually make the videos anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like he just like it's like the Magic Treehouse books. It's like at some point probably no. These videos are 20 to 15 minutes. 6 days ago, 5 days ago, 4 days ago. It's every day. All right. It's student breaks into school. They live to regret it. Dad dresses as Nay to see his kids. What happens will shock you.
Nice.
Stepkids refuse to get along. What happens is shocking. You see the formula. Okay, it's all the same. Yeah. It's all the same. Oh yeah, 5 new videos a week. That's what he does. So he has 16 million subscribers. 16 million subscribers. 8.4 billion total views. He started in 2018. That's 4 years of just that. And then I don't know, man. There's no way. It's just so unbelievable. There's so many other channels. I'm like, why don't you watch this other content? Anyways, it's a whole tangent. I guess get back to the topic.
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was pretty much all I had to say about M. Night Shyamalan was that he's inconsistent. But now I know so much more. I know so much more. I don't know. Crab says a lot of the viewers are little kids too.
A lot of the viewers are little kids. Oh, actually, maybe that makes sense.
I mean, does it make it any better though?
No. It's still bad. It's like still bad for like children. It's like bad. It doesn't matter. There's no like target audience that's good for it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think. I think it's just bad overall.
iPad tube is something else.
When you leave your iPad on autoplay, maybe that's where you get all those views from. Oh, are all those views? You can tell sometimes when if you look at their comments and it's like clearly these are like not real humans. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of channels like that. It's very strange that are like kids channels, but kids aren't commenting, so it's just a bunch of like bots, and they're not convincing. Real channels. It looks like real account. They don't have like clearly fake names, at least, I love the videos. You're my favorite motivational speaker / producer. You inspire me a lot. They are like an everyday TV show. Wow. Someone quoted him. He said, quote, "We are not telling stories. We are changing lives." End quote, Darman.
Wow.
All right,
we're changing lives out here. Anyway. Okay, yeah. So let me keep scrolling down because we'll get to some ones that the reason I picked this one was because when I sorted by controversial, I actually saw hot takes. I was like, these are hot takes actually. Some of them I vehemently disagree with, like this next one here. There Will Be Blood is PTA's second worst film. And PTA being Paul Thomas Anderson. That is literally one of my favorite films of all time. It might actually be my favorite film of all time. I will fight you over that. That makes no sense to me. Like, I don't know what you looked at when you watched the movie, but I have watched people's reactions while watching the movie, and I don't think there's anything. It feels rather universal, the reaction to that film. I can imagine you saying that it's really good, but you're not understanding why it's like, why I would like it so much, because it's very lean. I mean, definitely is a character study. If you don't like character studies, you won't like it. That kind of stuff. But like, if it's like, you just like, it's just objectively trash. You're objectively trash. So I don't agree. 99 Crime says, I know back in the day, little babies would type gibberish in the comments. Kids' cartoon comments would be like, yeah. Or it's adults typing those in to get the likes up because everyone thinks it's a little baby.
Yeah,
weird things to think about.
Well, actually, they have the for kids section now of YouTube where if your thing is for kids, there's no longer you can't have comments on the video anymore. It kind of makes sense because like, what's baby gonna type? Also, should baby be typing? Should the baby be interacting with like society at large on the internet? Probably not.
Yeah. Okay. Here's an interesting one. This one says Studio Ghibli. Here, I'll scroll to it. Did I pass it? I might have passed it. There it is. Okay. It says Studio Ghibli is massively overrated. The only good film I've seen from them is Porco Rossi. Okay, so I am not a Studio Ghibli like aficionado. I don't know every Studio Ghibli film, so I couldn't comment on this in any high capacity. But the word overrated is interesting in this one because I really like all Studio Ghibli films. Actually, I would say I think they're fantastic. I understand why people love them so much, and they're very interesting films. Sometimes though, people speak of them as if they are, I don't know, just like they're on some some higher plane. And maybe I even agree with some of that. I don't know. Maybe what I'm really agreeing with here is that if you're saying that they're rated at like a level 100, I would probably say they're rated at level 98. And this person probably thinks they're rated at level 80. So I'm probably disagreeing with this person on some level here. But I mean, I can see you legitimately feeling that the hype is a little bit over much, because I think there's a little bit of obsession that kind of follows along with Studio Ghibli stuff. A little bit of cult-like tendencies, but that's okay. It's okay.
We need an anime episode.
Oh, we do need an anime episode. That's a good one. Yeah, I'll have to put that on the list.
We could do a whole Japanese episode. The issue is, despite Japanese games being prominent, I don't play them. Not because I just don't. It's just like a luck thing. It's just I happen to not play them. You know what I'm saying? Not avoiding them. It's just it just so happened. Despite me knowing many prominent ones that I should probably play these. These are considered classics. Just hasn't happened. So yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that idea. We're gonna have to do that. I have so many thoughts on anime. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. Let's see here. Here's this next one, which also I thought was interesting. It says, I don't like Kubrick movies. I wish people gave more explanation for these things, but they're good. They're good topics. I don't like Kubrick movies. And honestly,
wow, that really ties into my hot take that I posted.
Well, which is what?
We'll get there.
We'll get there. I got it. I think further down, someone says, I don't like The Shining, which is a Kubrick film. I get that. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I get it. I understand that. I think Kubrick is probably the most overrated director, one of the most overrated directors out there. I think there's so much weird mystique around his films. For example, around The Shining, there's all these theory videos you can find on YouTube. It's 20 theories about the ending of The Shining, and this represents that, and 10 layers deep into it. I've got to say, I've never got those feelings out of Kubrick films. I never got the feeling that he was going for anything super deep. And I actually found this question to be rather interesting, and I did a lot of research into Kubrick's thoughts about his own films, because newsflash, if you want to understand someone's films the best, the best thing would be to ask them. But if you can't ask them, go see what they say about their own films, and see what they say. And he says literally what I say, like what I've said about his own films, which is that people take them way too they extrapolate way too much out of them. Like they look at it as if you're doing like a 5D puzzle, where like The Shining is not a 5D puzzle, guys. I hate to break it to you, but what you see is kind of what you get with The Shining, except for like maybe you can have some theories about sanity and some interesting stuff about human nature. But honestly, it's a mood piece. Like oddly enough, people focus on the plot. They focus on these it's a mood piece. Like it's really just trying to instill terror the entire runtime. That's really the point of the film. like there's not really any other point of the film. And I think it does it pretty well. I don't from that perspective, I didn't react to it in that way, but I understand why a lot of the film is so influential. And sometimes I even see myself calling back to some Kubrickisms in terms of the way he puts together images from The Shining, in the way that I think about stuff that, I want to make, right? That's totally fine. I think some of those images are seared into your mind. That being said, 2001: A Space Odyssey is definitely up there in some of my favorite films. And it's a Kubrick film. But that's also a mood piece. Like, please realize, 2001: A Space Odyssey, 10 alternate endings explored video, right? It's a good video to get the clicks on YouTube. But the ending is actually rather simple of 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's pretty much what you think it is. And the thing is, Kubrick has said as such. Like, you can literally go look up what he said about his own film and go see him say that people overanalyze the ending and don't get the fact that he was just going for a general vibe. 2001: A Space Odyssey is literally one of the most beautiful films of all time. Fight me. Like, it is, like, in terms of visual aspects, there are literally shots that are seared into my mind. So freaking gorgeously lit and shot, and just the pacing is so good. And so, yeah, I get that. But, like, I feel like Kubrick, people take Kubrick, they start talking about moon landings and stuff like that with 2001: A Space Odyssey, and start talking about, like, other things. Hey, I'm here for all of that, by the way. I'm not even dismissing all of that. Like, except I'm going to dismiss it in this case because it's not true. I wouldn't dismiss it if it was true, but it's not true, so I'm dismissing it. So it's yeah, I think with Kubrick, I can see how someone could be like, yeah, man, Kubrick is the deepest filmmaker of all time. You've got to check out this, that, and the other. And we're going to do a marathon of Kubrick. Enters, like, slowly paced, like, very artisanal shots, like, very slow baked, like, slow burn. Like, we're really going to sit here and, like, sit at this shot just for the mood of it. That's Kubrick. And there's nothing wrong with that. Kubrick's great. But it's the overhype is very real, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that was the last sort of stuff that I wanted to react to from here, pretty much. Yeah, but I like this thread because there are actually, like, interesting things people were saying that didn't just sound stupid or, like, was, like, things that everyone agrees with anyway. So it's like, okay, I mean, that's not a hot take. So that's cool. All right, let me pull up Nathan's. So, yeah, Nathan, you want to explain while I pull it up?
Sure. Well, that's a good segue because it's Kubrick related. It's the exact opposite. So, well, really, what the title is why are movies these days so mediocre? As an example, this person says, "I'm obsessed with Kubrick movies." Extremely well-made films. I think I have seen The Shining, 2001, and Clockwork Orange at least 40 times. Okay, that's kind of wow. Okay. He was very dedicated on what he was doing, unlike most modern directors. First off, they're so lazy how they rely so much on CGI. Stories are dull, and there are no mind-blowing twists. I don't get how society is not seeing how bad the industry has become. Kubrick's movies felt special. Everything that's being released today gets lost in the flock of sheep and forgotten for good.
Yeah. By the way, 909 Crime, I don't know that if it's any messages past hype, we have not seen it. So I don't know if you've been sending more messages than that.
Yeah, that's the last one.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one too. Now, I have some questions though. Like, what is the big plot twist in 2001: A Space Odyssey? Is it the ending?
Wait, huh? What? Okay, on Discord, nothing. Restream has not done anything past hype, but YouTube has actually seen things past hype. So it says like Restream is not. So yeah, YouTube chat is working. It says Space Odyssey. Man, oh my god, I tried that movie. I tried to like it. Space Baby ending.
That's accurate.
I haven't watched it myself, so I don't know what that refers to, so it just sounds random to me.
The ending is very trippy. Okay. You're correct. It is quite beautiful. Yeah, that's the thing. That's it, man. Like, there's nothing more to get out of it. There's a space baby at the end. It's quite trippy. like, there's actually a point he's making, but everyone got it. Everyone who watched it got it. Like, he is making a point that's bigger than just a space baby, right? It's not just there because it's just cool. It's not just that, right? Like, it represents something. I'm not going to spoil it, but everyone understood it when they watched it. It actually is that level of you don't have to go further. Like, you're done. Like, you got it. Like, you know what I mean? It's rather simple. It's just beautiful. And he's going for a mood, and that's all it is. So I respect people's opinions on Kubrick one way or the other, because I don't feel that strongly about his works, and I don't know that it's worth fighting so much over Kubrick. Anyway. So in this case, with this mediocre films bit, let me open it in my browser because it's hard to read the way that my editor has decided to be destructive. But when you're talking about laziness, I think there's no such thing as laziness is not the same. It depends what you mean by laziness, I suppose. There's a lot of things that contribute to the mediocreness of films these days. There's a lot, and most of it's cultural. It's unfortunately the studio. And most of it's cultural, and it's also a bunch of corporatist crap that's happening at the same time. And I could probably go on and on and on about those things, but let me just respond to the stuff that you said. Most of my favorite movies were made back in the 70s and 80s. Dude, have you seen some 80s movies, man? Some of them are really bad. Objectively so. But yeah, I can see that there were more good movies back then. That was the age of the blockbuster. And I miss the good blockbuster age, man. When you could go watch a very popular, very successful movie. It might be somewhat formulaic, but it's so well done, and you just appreciate it. You have a fun time. You go to it's like the movie you go to the summer with your friends. We don't have that many movies like that anymore that are really great, and I think that really sucks. What
happened to Michael Bay? Does he still make movies?
He does still make movies. He just released one this year. Huh? He was showing off that he used a drone, an FPV drone, to do a lot of it. I can't remember the name of the film for some reason.
Filmography. Ambulance. I've never heard of that.
That's what it is. Ambulance. Yes. I have not seen it, but
wow, he's only ever made 2 movies after Transformers. Well, after the last Transformers, but that's it really series really extended itself to 2017.
Yeah.
So actually, it's not that wild. Actually, I just didn't realize it extended that. I do extend it, and now I realize he kept going that long.
Yeah. So
Armageddon.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of. Yeah, I guess that's a Michael Bay kind of movie, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, Michael Bay gets a little bit too much hate, in my opinion. I think most of his movies are just forgettable and dumb, but some of his movies can be quite entertaining. Just
I haven't watched those later Transformers, but man, they do not look great.
Oh yeah, the Transformers series is not a good example of.
Well, the Transformers series happens to be half of his filmography.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Maybe you have a point then. They're pretty bad. 99 Crime says, I remember enjoying Pacific Rim. I enjoyed Pacific Rim too, man. Like, Pacific Rim is great.
I thought you didn't. I thought you thought it was dumb.
It's dumb. It's horrible, but it's great.
Okay.
It's a dumb movie. Okay, I shouldn't say I enjoyed it. Maybe that's over-exaggerating it. I thought it was funny. But I think it's trying to be funny. I don't think it's trying to be anything serious. It's just like, here's these cool big mechs, and they're just going to punch each other. It's stupid. I'm going to pull out a knife from my back and have my big mech warrior and stab this other mech. It's just stupid, but it's fun. It's very fun. But we don't have that kind of stuff anymore these days, so I can understand the 70s, 80s comment. I'm obsessed with Kubrick's movies. Okay, 40 times. He was really dedicated. When you say dedicated, you should replace that word with obsessed. Kubrick was an obsessive man. There's a famous story from, everyone knows probably, just in case you didn't. There's a famous story from The Shining where he forced one of his secretaries to write. So there's a scene in The Shining where, man, I'm so bad with names. Wife character. I'm gonna offend a bunch of people. That's fine. Is typing out on it, like, you know, in this really, I guess, freaky way. You know, the sentence repeatedly on the typewriter, and I also forgot the sentence. So kill me. That's fine. You know, writing out the sentence over and over and over and over again. And Kubrick actually made his secretary do that, which is abusive in my opinion. I don't think that's okay. Like, I think that's horrible. It's a huge stack, by the way, Nathan. It's like literally like this big, and he just made her type.
Is it on camera? Like,
no,
what she's doing? So
no.
why? What was the point?
I don't know. I think he's just a little crazy.
Wait, what? Has he authentically, like, he couldn't print out his paper and, like...
Dude, I have no idea. I don't get it.
Is it on a computer? Is it on a computer, or...
Huh?
Typing it on a computer?
No, on a typewriter.
Typewriter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's straight abusive. I don't know. I can't really think of a reason why you do that way, but
okay.
Dude probably had OCD. Like, that's what it kind of feels like, but I wouldn't know. Any case. Yeah, he was, but okay, I get the idea about dedication, but the thing is, a lot of modern filmmakers are also dedicated. They just suck. like, there's a different, like, you can try really hard and suck. Like, and that happens. And there's a lot of different stuff going on there. There's nepotism, there's corruption, there's different reasons. If you check out the series that I do on clandestine things that happen in Hollywood, those things are still happening today, people. And those people who can do the bidding of whichever big, powerful entity wants to do their bidding to get a certain message across, or subtle messages even across, it hasn't changed. It's probably resurged quite a bit lately from the way it was back in the Cold War era. So, you know, I mean, all those things aside, you get a lot of crappy films. And when I say crappy films, I'm including, like, you know, I mean, that's why a lot of Star Wars was really bad. You know, the new Star Wars is, they were trying to cram so much stuff in it. They had no direction. It was a very corporate boardroom sort of project. There were things that other people wanted in the films. Put it that way. Got to go check out that series. Wanted to make sure we're in the film because they wanted to push certain points. And, you know, it is what it is. But guess what? The only person who's responsible for it at the end of the day is you, the watcher. Not, I shouldn't say only. These people are responsible too. But you have a lot more power than you think you do. You just have to get educated on why it's getting bad. Don't just say it's getting bad, I'm just going to ditch film because, like, I just can't. No. Calm down for a moment. Relax. And just say, I'm not going to watch the next one that comes out of whatever the heck is being destroyed. I'm just not going to do it. I try my best, unless it's for the purpose of doing a specific segment that I think will bring value to you on mixed media. I don't watch Disney movies. I don't. I just straight up don't do it. I can't stand the company, I think they're one of the most unethical companies in existence. They're disgusting. They make horrible films by and large. Once in a while they'll do okay, but like by and large they make horrible films these days. And I vote with my dollar, so I'm just avoiding the company. So, just if you love film, don't give up on it. Learn why things are different. Examine your older films and compare it to the newer ones, and then decide whether or not you want to continue to support people. And then don't just do that. Get in the comments. Get in the forums and get mad. Just say, this is why I'm not watching this film. And just be adamant and confident in that. And just do it. And the corporate boards, they know. So, yeah.
I don't know, Crime said thoughts on Morbius?
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 Morbius? Wait, what's Morbius?
There's no way. You have escaped the memes? Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Oh, this film! Oh! Yes. Wait, I think I've only seen one meme from this film. I didn't know it was being memed to death.
Dude, it is like all over internet culture. It's everywhere. Like, I don't know. If I join a random Discord server, you're probably likely to see some random Morbius joke in there, at any given moment.
Okay, clearly I'm like disconnected from everything.
Got memed so hard it got released twice? Wait, did it release twice? What?
I mean, I saw the ratings on Letterboxd. Like, I remember seeing them when this movie came out, and it got trashed on. I didn't actually, I think I saw one meme. I don't even remember what the meme was, and I don't know if I understood.
I don't even know why it's bad. Like, I don't know anything about it. Like, I don't know, anything about,
I have no idea.
Dude, it is so... Wow, if you go to the Wikipedia page, you know how, usually, there's a reception, category for movies? It has an internet memes section. It is that... is that prominent?
Wow,
oh my gosh!
They should lean into that. They should lean into that. That's
something. Yeah. That sounds like a.
There's no way to turn back, right? Like, you just gotta lean into it. You gotta. What is the Japanese martial arts principle? Like.
Oh yeah. Is that judo?
Or is it?
That's not judo. No, judo is not Japanese. Is it?
I don't know. I'm about to sound mad ignorant, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I don't want to say something and it's just wrong. Oh, it's Japanese. Okay. Yeah. I think it's judo that does that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be wrong though. It says one of the memes referenced is that the meme that is the first movie to make $1 billion.
Okay. Wow. Well. Okay. This movie is apparently really bad. It's sad because Jared Leto is a really talented dude, but I guess
he was in that.
Yeah.
Oh man, he had the Suicide Squad too. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yo, fun fact: Jared Leto was in a rock band.
Oh really?
He was in 30 seconds. He was the lead singer for 30 Seconds to Mars.
Wait, what?
Was 30 Minutes to Mars? 30 Seconds to Mars, right?
30 Seconds to Mars, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he's the lead singer. If you go watch the video, you will find the music videos. Find Jared Leto is singing.
Dang, fun facts I didn't know.
Oh, apparently I just looked up on Wikipedia. I did not know this part. His wife is the drummer.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. It's his brother. His brother's name is Shannon. I didn't realize. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the image. Yeah, that is a dude. I did not realize that at first. I just assumed Shannon Leto. I was like, okay. I don't know why I didn't assume sister, but yeah, that's his brother.
There's a scene when Morbius is talking to his public defender in the film. It's an incredible scene. I'm going to look that up afterwards because guys, if you want to make me happy, give me recommendations for films that are so bad they're good. Is this one of those films? I will buy this film.
That's the question.
I enjoy the living heck out of so bad they're good films. I think they're hilarious. They're better than comedies to me. Yes. Okay. It's a done deal.
He's on the film's official Discord server called himself Morbheads and engage in morbin on the various Discord servers.
Oh my gosh. That's great. All right. This is the last one here. So this one's for me again. I don't even remember what I picked though, so this is going to be interesting. Man, Let's see. By the way, my favorite So Bad It's Good film, highly recommend, is Last Vampire on Earth. It's literally so good. So bad. So good.
Can confirm.
It is. Oh no. Did our call end? Oh no. Something happened. If you guys are seeing me still on the screen, our Skype chat has died, or our Skype call died for a moment. I have no idea why. Let's see here. Oh, he's joining back in. Let's see if he'll come back. I'm telling you, man, it's my graphics card. You're frozen on my screen, Nathan. I can't even hear you. Let's pull you in. You're pulled in. Oh no. You're moving at like 1 frame a minute. And I can't hear you. Huh. Let me let me see here. I'm in the call, but it seems frozen. Okay. Maybe close it and open again? Well. Aster TTVV says, bro is frozen. Yeah, sorry about that, dude. Also, welcome. I don't think I've ever seen your name before, so welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. Let's see here. I love how some people are pouring in as the as we remain frozen over here. All right, Nathan, you gotta exit out and start back in. Let's see. In the meantime, while I'm trying to rectify the situation, I'll give a shout out to mixedmediapodcast.com, where you can find links to all of our stuff if you're enjoying this conversation. If you want to follow us on Discord, or join our Discord rather, you want to continue this conversation afterwards, you got some good recommendations for me for So Bad They're Good movies, that's where you do it. Do it on the Discord. Okay, it looks like it's actually on my side of the Skype. Skype is having an issue, which makes sense given my recent problems. If you guys know, by the way, if you've installed a 3080 into your computer and you've had similar issues, oh boy, everything's flashing. That's bad. Okay, maybe we'll have to cut the stream short tonight. Wow, dang, that's crazy. What is going on? Nice. I started a new call. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. So I just got a 3080, if you weren't here before, and I'm having a ton of issues with anything graphical, anything that uses GPU acceleration. I'm having tons of problems. It's likely that Skype randomly interacted poorly with my graphics card for whatever reason. Or maybe a combination of my live editor, which uses my GPU memory, or whatever's going on. And I've been troubleshooting this to death. Okay. I'm back in the call, Nathan. Okay, he says Skype logo now. Oh, okay. I think he is... Oh no. Okay, interesting. All right. Well, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just quickly. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna quickly throw up the last thing. Maybe go through it a little bit. Hopefully Nathan will come back in, although now Skype has crashed on me, so that's lovely. I wish we had a better solution than Skype, but that is what it is. And then we'll sign off a little earlier than initially planned. So, real quick, let's get on here. The last hot take of the day was this one. Oh, great. Now things are frozen onto my screen. Well, this wouldn't be an episode of Mixed Media if things didn't go horribly wrong. That's okay. While this has been present since the rise of the novel, it has been Okay, so basically, I remember now. This hot take is basically about the film Arrival, which I've done, I think, a 30-second or 60-second review of Arrival. If you go check it out on the channel, it's only 60 seconds. And where I give my thoughts, and I basically say I don't understand the hype behind Arrival. I find the film to be one big deepity. If you haven't heard me use that term before, I use the term deepity to mean pretty much things that are think they're so deep, but they're not really saying all that much of interest or value. And that might be harsh if you really love the film Arrival. But hey, you came here for hot takes. But I find the concept of the film to be actually rather shallow. I've seen the explanations, I've seen the articles, I've seen the heartfelt love for this film, but I just sincerely don't get it. I'm this shows the continuation of humanity into blah blah. I mean, that I think very philosophically, I suppose, and those things are kind of gibberish to me. But in any case, this Tumblr post here, which is screenshotted in this post, is basically saying, complaining about people are going back and forth about the mechanics of Arrival, basically complaining about whether or not it makes sense that the language is timeless and why is it timeless and all this kind of stuff. This I actually will defend Arrival on, though, because this I find rather irritating when it happens. And there is definitely, the person actually mentioned cinema sins in the title right there. And this is something that happened culturally to film, which is that people became extremely nitpicky for fun on films, as if being nitpicky is the point. As if continuity is the point of film. As if even in sci-fi that logical coherence is the point of film. I don't think these are the point of the movies unless it makes those things the point of those films. So if Arrival was this all just makes sense, man, you just got to learn the science and it really all makes sense, then I would have a problem with it. If the movie was approaching, the idea of a atemporal language from that perspective, then I would agree that, okay, the film is ejecting its audience from reality unnecessarily. It's not doing its job to immerse its audience very well. However, the film just put this forward as something that you ought to believe. My question is not so much whether it's believable or consistent inside this universe, whether or not the language can be atemporal and what does it mean, does it even make sense, and all this kind of stuff, are there plot holes, all this kind of stuff. I don't care about any of that. I think the more important thing is, what does it do to the film? What is the point of it being atemporal? And in one sense, it is the entire point of the film. And I find that to be a rather weak and boring point of the film, because it's trying to say certain things about humanity that I find to be rather deepity, right? It's when someone says, man, we all just got to cooperate, work together, and we'll all be happy. I mean, okay. Clearly life is more complicated than that. And, maybe that's good for a children's film. It's not very good for exploring the deeper things in life. It's not really that helpful, right? You already knew that. It's not really a helpful addition to your life. If you explored how that might happen, or maybe the role that language plays in a more tangible sense, a more relatable sense as to how language plays into our ability to cooperate and to avoid conflict and all this kind of stuff. If you got a little bit more deep with that, you had some thoughts. Maybe I don't agree with the thoughts, but as long as they're good, interesting thoughts, trust me, I'd be engaged. But I don't feel that way about Arrival. Okay, I promised I'd make that short, and then sign off real quick before my computer explodes. So this has been Mixed Media, and if you have enjoyed any part of what you've seen tonight, We do this every week, 9:30 p.m., right here on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, wherever you're watching right now. 99 Crime says CGI. Yeah, the CGI is really great. Yeah. But yeah, we'll be back on next Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time if you want to join us. And you can go to mixedmediapodcast.com to check out links where you can find the final podcast. Now, we're still behind on editing, but we'd have that a little resolved by now. But, you know, my interns are learning. And shout out to all of y'all for working hard. And hopefully we'll get back up to speed next week on getting those podcasts out on time. So if you want to stick around and see those posts as they come out, you got to go to any podcasting platform. We also post those on YouTube, and we also post those on Rumble as well if you don't like YouTube. So with that, I guess I'll see you next week. And there's the last thing. That's hilarious. My lights went out. Of course. Well, I'll see you next week. Bye.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We back, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers. No